Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? I'm super excited to do this little presentation for you. Today, we're going to be talking about how to wake and feed a sleepy baby, a step-by-step guide. So hi, my name is Jen, the lactation expert, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my story. So I have 8 years of experience as a postpartum nurse working with breastfeeding moms. And before that, when I was in school, I did also a lot of my research in my bachelor's program about breastfeeding because it's always interested me since a very young age. So I love working with moms, babies. So not only do I do postpartum, I also do NICU, transition nurse who helps catch and deliver the baby with the doctor. And L&D is the only thing that I don't do. So I really love postpartum because I love all the teaching and really getting in there and helping moms. I'm also a certified maternal newborn nurse for just over a year and a half. So I had to have at least 2 years of experience on postpartum in that specialty to even sit for the exam. And then I sat for about a 3 or 4 hour exam and passed. And so I have to keep up credits every 2 years to keep that certification active. So I have that as well. So I'm super excited about that. That was one thing that I really wanted to do that took me a little bit. And I am a mom of 3 little crazy children. They're 2, 5, and 7. And I breastfed them all exclusively at least for a year. And then my last one, she was about 22 months. So it's just been over a year since last May is when I officially stopped nursing. So I'm done with that stage. There's no more babies, but I still am super passionate and love helping moms with breastfeeding. Okay, so why learning this process is important? So every parent goes through this, whether you're experienced and you've had children before, or you're a new parent and you haven't come across this situation. All babies get super sleepy. So it's usually after the first 24 hours. So they do really, the first 24 hours of life. So they do really good right after delivery because they were just born, they're energized, you're energized, the love hormones, everything is going. So it's super easy to breastfeed and they breastfeed well, the majority of these babies. And then after that, they kind of like peter out and they get so tired because labor was exhausting for them just as much as it was for you. So you need to remember that they're just tired but they also still need to keep up their glucose levels. So they don't have that placenta nutrition anymore 24/7. Like when they were in utero, they had that placenta and that umbilical cord going right to them, giving them nutrients constantly. So whatever you were eating or drinking, they were getting that. Well, now they don't have that anymore. So they kind of have like a reserve for 24 hours because that period is very sleepy. But otherwise, we still want to make sure we're watching for feeding cues, and we'll talk about that and a couple of other things. So I have this step-by-step guide, and I'm also going to give you a checklist that I have that goes along with this that you can print out. It's easy to just put in your hospital bag, or if you're having a home birth, you can just have it home so you know exactly the steps to take to kind of get through that sleepy phase because all babies go through it. And if you had other children and if you formula fed, you might not have seen that because it's easier for a baby to just have a bottle in their mouth and suck formula when it's flowing into their mouth. With breastfeeding, it's a lot more complicated because you have to do a couple of tips and tricks to really get them on the breast, actively awake and sucking. Okay, so we're going to go over this. So every parent goes through it. There's steps that you can take. I see this every single day in postpartum. All babies do it. A lot of parents are kind of overwhelmed because they're like, I don't know what's happening. They're so sleepy. Also, if you end up getting your baby circumcised too, that also makes them super sleepy after for at least another 6 to 8 hours. So this can come in handy in a couple of different situations. Okay, so we're gonna go over the step-by-step process. So a sleepy baby after birth. So the one thing that you want to do is delay the bath, and we'll go more deep into all of these in the next couple of slides. 2, unswaddle and attempt to wake and feed. 3, skin to skin contact. 4 is attempt to breastfeed. 5 is skin to skin again and attempt to breastfeed. 6 is hand express your colostrum. 7 is syringe feed the colostrum. And then 8, watch for early feeding cues and attempt to breastfeed again. And then you're just going to cycle through that until you can get baby to feed. Okay? So we're going to go with step 1. So delaying the baby's bath. This is one thing that I am super adamant about. It's one of those things, especially if you're in the hospital, the baby never needs to be bathed at the hospital. Yes, it is a good teaching moment as well if you're super nervous about bathing your baby, but right after delivery, there is no need. The only times that they'll really bathe your baby is, for example, if mom was choreo, which means she had a really bad infection. Sometimes hospitals do want to do want to bathe the baby, but maybe request just a water bath and no soap. But so you can do that. But otherwise, there's a couple of other things that they might do to want you to have the bath, but really it's not necessary. You want all that vernix, that white kind of cheesy looking substance on their body. You want that to stay on them, plus all the amniotic fluid, because when you have baby skin to skin with you and you're smelling all those scents, I know it kind of sounds gross right now, but after delivery, you're going to know it's a good thing. It doesn't really smell bad unless the baby pooped in you, the meconium, then they can be really full of poop. So you kind of just wipe them off, but still for that first feeding, try to delay the bath. But you might, they might have you give the bath after too, because of the baby, if the baby pooped. But definitely all those scents and everything, those scents you inhale, and it helps your milk to come in sooner and to just like bond and do all those kind of really good things with the baby. Like sometimes it's so hard to explain what nature intended to happen and what's so natural that you just do it. So that's one of the major things is I do delay the bath. So skip the bath. If you want to skip the whole entire time you're there, or at the hospital, or if you're having a home birth and you want to wait later, you can also do that. I actually waited and did an herbal bath with my daughter, the last one, and it had some salt and some sea salt in the herbal bath, so it helped to dry out her cord a little bit too. So that was awesome. So you can always delay the bath. That is something that is not necessary, that some of the nurses and staff will not tell you. So you don't need to do the bath. There's no medical indication for it. So that is the number one thing. So I would definitely recommend to delay it at least a minimum until breastfeeding is established, until you get a good hang on it. All that vernix and everything soaks into their skin. It helps them maintain their temperature. And is your baby term? If your baby is less than 38 weeks, we call that like a late pretermer. So basically, they're still kind of full term, but they act more like a preterm baby. So they can be sleepier with feeds, harder to maintain their temperatures, and they get cold really easily. So bathing babies less than 38 weeks can really put them what we call cold stress. They can get cold really quick because you go from uterus, which has like your body temperature. So say 98.6 degrees. Okay. So you have 98.6 degrees. Now they come out into like this 68, 70 degree room. And then you go back underwater for a bath. They get really cold and stressed out, and that can lower their blood sugars as well. And their temperature can drop, and then they won't feed well either. So delay the bath. It's so beneficial. The longer you delay it, the better. If you want to skip it altogether, kudos. That's even better. I highly recommend that. Okay, so late preterm. So on to number 2. Okay, so number 2 is unswaddle and attempt to wake your baby. So you want to take all your baby's clothes off and only leave on a diaper and hat. So if you have a baby, I'm a little baby right here, okay, and they're fully swaddled in a blanket, say their hands are like down here, and they're swaddled and they're tightly wrapped in a blanket like this. Nobody wants to eat like this, okay? They need all their hands up by their face and to grab, and that helps them to gently navigate the breast too, and really kind of massage the breast tissue, and that can help with a letdown. And you really want them to have both hands on either side. So you want to completely, I have a t-shirt, I have a little onesie on, my little baby. This is my daughter's, by the way. She's just named Baby, but yeah, she doesn't have a name. But you definitely want to unswaddle just a hat and a diaper, because they lose a lot of heat. If they don't have a lot of hair, they lose a lot of heat through their head too. So just a diaper and hat, and you're going to do skin to skin. Skin to skin is going to help maintain their temperature. Each breast can actually be a different temperature, which is really cool. So whatever temperature your baby is, your body is going to help regulate that. Your body will do way better than a warmer. So you really want to strip them naked and go skin to skin, really attempt to wake them. So you have your baby kind of in front of you, kind of move their arms back and forth, their legs, start talking to them, kind of rub their head, and just start talking to them and trying to wake them up if they're super sleepy. Okay. And then you can kind of just do that. Sometimes they might cry, and that's okay too. Crying is like, hey, I'm awake. I'm not a fan of this, but you're trying to tell them like, hey, it's really time to wake. So obviously you want to watch for feeding cues first, but if they aren't waking up kind of by like the 3-4 hour mark, then you definitely want to wake them to feed. Okay, so you're kind of playing with baby, moving them all around and kind of like gently talking to them, everything, and see if they start to wake up. And unswaddled in the blanket, letting the kind of cold air kind of wake them up and everything. So you're going to do that. Okay, number 3 is skin to skin contact. So there's a couple of ways you want to do skin to skin. So the proper way to do skin to skin is you actually, I can't turn her head, but you want to have their head sideways right over your heart, and then arms up, and then feet and hips here. Feet and hips like kind of up, elevated like this. Good for their hips, right in your center, and their head would be turned right over your heart. And this is how you're going to just stay skin to skin if they're still not waking up and ready to feed yet. So this way they're kind of in the area, okay? They're right in your breast area. They can smell you. Sorry, let me turn this up a little bit. So they can smell you, they can hear your heartbeat, and sometimes it makes them a little sleepy again, but also sometimes their sense, they can really smell you, they can smell your colostrum, your milk, and sometimes they'll just start going like this and rooting, and that's one of the baby's natural reflexes. That's perfect. Watch for that feeding cue. That means that they're ready to root on down and to go breastfeed. So the easiest way you can do is going right from here and just kind of nuzzle down to that left side. Okay. Skin to skin. I don't like doing skin to skin, like with baby's head on the breast and like this. I mean, some people do it right after birth. It's a little hard to do up and down, but if you start to get really sleepy as a mom, it's easy for the baby to nuzzle down and to go right into your armpit. And there have been cases where the baby has not been able to breathe and we have to resuscitate them. So this one, if you start to get sleepy and fall asleep and they nuzzle down, or women with very large, soft breasts, they can kind of just go from sideways to right down into your breast and into your armpit. So I really like to have them up and down with their legs up in their hands. Then when you're ready to breastfeed, then you can kind of go down. Okay. So skin to skin, again, they should still have just a diaper on. They should have a hat. And then you want to have like 2 blankets over you. And you're just going to kind of sit there, kind of relax back and get ready to start breastfeeding. So I would say to probably do this for about 15-20 minutes. If they're super sleepy, maybe just do it for half an hour. So try and do that first. Okay. So next one is attempt to breastfeed. Okay, so now you've done kind of all the waking up. You've done some skin to skin. So now it's time to try and attempt to breastfeed. So if they are rooting, obviously they are showing you feeding cues that they are ready. So you're going to nuzzle baby down kind of in a position to breastfeed. Remember, belly to belly. Okay, this is like a natural reflex for them. You don't want baby turned out and trying to turn their head sideways, because nobody wants to eat with like that. You want their spine straight and their head kind of tilted back a little bit. If their head is too far this way, so if you have baby too far over and their head and neck are like this, nobody can eat like that. You want to be able to eat with the neck straight or kind of tilted back like you're taking a drink of water. So they want the same thing. So again, you don't want out and having their head turned. That's not comfortable for their body and their spine. Because it's the same for us. We don't drink water like this, like that automatically, just even for us as adults, feels really uncomfortable. Okay. So you want to try and nuzzle down. The easiest position for especially first-time moms, even just newborns in general, whether it's your third baby, your fifth baby, whatever. Reverse cradle is my absolute favorite. So this one is you're going to hold baby right behind the shoulder blades. So your whole palm of your hand is kind of on baby, kind of support the back of their neck, and you're going to hold your breast entirely with your hand. So now if you're coming from the side, you want to hold your breast this way. Now, if you're coming from football, you want to hold your breast this way. So you want to watch your hand position because you want your breast tissue going into their mouth, kind of like as if you were eating a sandwich. You don't want it to go this way because it's not going to be a good latch. They're not going to be able to get that negative pressure seal. So you latch, so you hold from the bottom, go chin and then up and over. And they like that closeness feeling. Okay. So they don't like falling away. So if your baby, you're not holding them tight to your body, that initiates that startle reflex, and they'll constantly startle and feel like they're falling, and then they'll pop off, they'll get frustrated at the breast. So really hold them nice and snug with your arms, and then you hold your breast with this hand and then move baby towards the breast with this hand and your baby, okay? And try and latch. If they're having a really hard time and they're just like getting on there and they're not doing anything, then my best trick that I tell all moms, especially newborns, is try to hand express a couple of drops of colostrum. Okay, so we'll kind of go over that more in the next slide, how to hand express, but you want to get a couple drops on your nipples, so then that way you did the majority of the work for them. So right when they get on there, they can immediately taste it and maybe they'll start sucking, okay? The one thing is sometimes you can attempt to breastfeed and you get baby perfectly latched, you got them on there, and they're still so sleepy that they won't suck. So that's one thing. It's like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Same with the babies. You can get them on the breast and they look perfect, but then you can't make them suck. So that's one of the tricky things, is getting the babies to suck if they're super sleepy. Okay. So if they are super sleepy and they won't suck, a couple things is you can try just like tickling their cheek right here. That elicits that rooting kind of reflex, and sometimes that kind of wakes them up. I kind of tickle them, rub their head. Sometimes I just kind of move their arms. I tickle their feet, and I do some of those things, and sometimes that can elicit them to start sucking. Okay, so you really want to start attempting to breastfeed now that you did. So you did the skin to skin, you attempted to wake them, you did all those things. Okay, so on to number 5. Okay, so now say your baby still isn't doing anything. You've tried for like 5 to 10 minutes and they are out cold. They're not showing you anything, okay? So what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of do the last 2 steps. You're going to do skin to skin for like another 15 to 30 minutes, and then you're going to attempt to breastfeed again. And obviously watch cues. If they're showing cues any sooner to want to breastfeed or nurse, then you're going to attempt to breastfeed again. But you do want to still attempt at the end of doing some more skin to skin is attempt and do step number 4 all over again. So try and hand express a couple drops, latch them on, sometimes even just trying a different position. So if you did cross cradle, maybe just try football this time, or maybe try laid back nursing. Try all kinds of different positions. Sometimes just switching up the positions too can really help. Try waking them up again, tickling them, kind of rubbing them, try burping them. Sometimes you can even just try changing their diaper, even though it's dry. The exposure of a little chilly air down there can sometimes wake them up too. Okay, so step 5 is basically just repeating steps number 3 and 4. Okay, all right, so now your baby is still out cold. You've tried everything. You've done it twice. You've repeated. There's no more reasons to go through this continuously. So now, say that's been like another hour that you've been trying between skin to skin and waking baby and everything. They're still not having it. Now we still need to focus on just getting your colostrum out and getting the baby fed. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to hand express. So you're going to do a little bit of massage for like 2 to 3 minutes. So especially if you have large breasts, those breast ducts can go all the way back to your armpits. And sometimes when your milk comes in too, you can kind of get lumps in your armpits too. It's called the tail of Spence, and your milk can be all the way back here. So I start kind of massage and I kind of go all the way back from underneath the armpits and just start gently pulling everything forward. So kind of just do that on both sides. So you're going to kind of just pull everything forward. Okay. And then you're going to kind of like take like 2 or 3 fingers, and I just start gently doing little circles, like all around the breast, mostly on top and on the sides. You don't really need to go underneath. On the sides, kind of there, and then just keep doing that and then pulling towards the front. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to loosen up those breast ducts, and that colostrum is super thick. It's like honey. Okay. You know, when you're pouring honey out, how like long it takes to kind of like get down the container and come out of the spout. The same thing is with your breast. So if it's really far back in there, you want to kind of move it all towards the front of where your areola and your nipples are, so it'll be easier to come out. Okay. So you're going to do that for about 2 to 3 minutes total, kind of like on both sides, kind of getting things ready. So then it really helps to, when you start hand expressing, that the colostrum will be right there. Okay. And you're going to actually hand express as if you were feeding your baby. Okay. So about 10 to 15 minutes, however much you can get in that amount of time. And then that's what we're going to feed to baby. Okay. So then you're going to take your hand like a C. If you've watched my other video, I kind of talked about this too. So this is kind of just a repeat, but you're going to take like your hand like a C, either side of the areola, not the nipple. Okay. Your areola is the darkened area around the nipple. So you want to kind of go right around that, and then you compress backwards, and then you squeeze and hold. Okay. So that's what the hold is very important because it's so thick. You want to go compress backwards, squeeze and hold, and let it slowly come out and through the nipple and out. Okay, so you want to try and do that. If you have large breasts, the two-handed technique usually works a lot better. So usually take 3 fingers, okay, on either side of the areola, same thing. Kind of go straight back, compress the breast ducts, and then squeeze and hold and let some of that colostrum come out. Now you want to try and move your fingers with both positions and try and figure out where kind of that sweet spot is. That one kind of breast duct that has colostrum and it's really kind of coming out. You'll notice on your nipple, it will come out multiple spots. There's no one spot. I think there's like, I think if I remember from my class, it's about 20 to 30 different little pathways from all the breast ducts through the nipple. So it will come out of multiple different holes. Okay. So you're going to get and then once you do that, usually I use a little medicine cup. So if you're in the hospital, you can just ask the nurse for a medicine cup. You can also just use a spoon. I prefer the cup because then just in case somebody bumps you or something, it's not going to spill. But I do it into a medicine cup, and you want to try and sit up in the bed. It's hard if you have a C-section, but do your best to try and sit up all the way on the edge of the bed and kind of go over and then hand express and scoop from the colostrum. And then you're just going to go back and forth for like 10 to 15 minutes as if the baby was feeding. Okay. So you do this side for a couple of times, and in between, while you're still doing it, you still want to keep massaging and pulling that colostrum all forward. Okay. And see how much you get. Again, in the beginning, some moms might only get a couple of drops. Don't be discouraged. This is totally, totally normal. Okay. I have nursed three children, and it takes me a long time. I start building up my supply before my children are born. So I start hand expressing kind of right around 36 weeks, and I start building up a stash beforehand. So I have it when they're born. But even after they're born, after I nurse them and I try and hand express, I probably only get like 0.2 and 0.3. That's totally normal. It's still colostrum, and you're still massaging and stimulating the breasts, which is important. So then your body will know to make more, and then you're still going to give it to your baby. And if you stay skin to skin, so if you're hand expressing, hand baby off to dad. I really encourage dads to do skin to skin too. Again, it's going to help maintain their blood sugars, their temperature. It's going to help with bonding, and they can really regulate their respiratory, their breathing rate and everything too, if they're really upset. And all those good things. So while you're doing that, try and have dad do skin to skin. If he doesn't feel comfortable, then just holding them, help them maintain those blood sugars, even if they're not feeding. Okay. And whatever little bit you're going to get, we're going to go on the next slide, and we'll show you how to syringe feed. Okay. All right. So step number 7 is syringe feed your colostrum. Okay. So now since I've been doing this for 8 years, syringe feeding is probably my favorite. Yes, you can cup feed. You can also spoon feed. It just tends to be messier for me, and I don't want to lose any of that colostrum, okay? It is liquid gold. When you hand express for 10 to 15 minutes, you'll know that it's a lot of work, and you just worked really hard. I don't want you to spill any of that, and I also want to make sure baby gets all of it. So I prefer syringe feeding. I think it's the easiest to teach parents, and they can just literally, it's a quick teaching and demonstration, and they can do it then the next time at any of their other feedings. Okay. So some hospitals will have like a syringe tip, a syringe that has a curved tip, so then it can kind of go nicely into the corner of their mouth. Otherwise, I have just like these small little 1 ml feeding syringes. So you would just go in the cup, draw up whatever colostrum you have, read how much it is. Those 1 ml syringes are like points. So it's like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, all the way up until 1. If you get a lot more than that, then they, most hospitals have like a 3 or 5 ml syringes too, and you can get one of those. And then all you're going to do is kind of just like this picture right here is wash your hands. If you don't feel comfortable using your bare hands, you can just put on a glove, but you want to kind of, with baby, you want to have them suck your finger this way. So don't go this way, because if you, here, I'm kind of showing. So if you go this way, they're kind of really hitting your fingernails, like hitting the roof of their mouth. You want to do it this way, so then you can gently tickle the roof of their mouth and elicit that suck reflex. Even if they're super sleepy and tired, this is why babies can mostly formula feed when they're tired, not breastfeed, because breastfeed takes a lot more effort. They have to be awake and active to really do vigorous, deep sucks and create that vacuum to really pull that thick colostrum. If they're sleepy, they're not going to do that. So it's easier because you can just put your finger in their mouth and they gently start sucking. They create a seal around your finger, and then you take that syringe and you put it right in the corner of their mouth while you have your finger. So you have your finger, then you have the syringe, and you slowly squirt it in while they suck and swallow. Totally easy. You don't even really have to burp them after, because they're not going to get a lot of air. And that's the simplest way to syringe feed your colostrum. And then you just gently push it in while they suck and swallow, and then they just drink your colostrum. You still took it out of your breast, so your breasts are going to automatically make more. So baby got fed, you took your milk out, everything is good. That counts as a feeding. Okay. Some nurses might get a little upset by this. Some nurses think this is controversial. They're like, oh my gosh, mom only got like 0.2. How does that count as a feeding? I'm like, we still took out milk, colostrum. We still gave it to baby. The baby is super sleepy right now. They are stable. They're not showing any signs of low blood sugars or anything like that. So there's no reason to supplement. Sleepy babies are totally normal in the first 24 hours. So and after circumcisions or other procedures, so they're going to be sleepy. So there's no reason to supplement at this time. We just have to give them more time. So this way, doing this little process really gives them a little bit of colostrum until they start waking up and showing us those cues. Okay. So step number 8. So this is what you're going to do. So after you syringe fed, wrap up baby, try and catch a quick cat nap. You'll feel like $1,000,000 even if you just get like a 30-minute nap. Okay. And now you're going to watch for early feeding cues. So some early feeding cues over the next couple of hours are fists moving to their mouth. Obviously they're trying to break out of their swaddle. They're probably hungry. Sucking on their hands or smacking their lips, turning their head to look for the breast, like rooting, kind of opening their mouth, opening, closing their mouth, and becoming more alert and active. Obviously, if they're waking up in the crib or in your arms or anything, then you want to put them to the breast. So the most important thing, the best tip that I ever received, I don't even remember whoever told me this, but you can't over breastfeed a baby. That is the absolute best thing about breastfeeding, is if you go through trial and error with a baby, you try burping them, you try reswaddling them, you try rocking them, you change their diaper, and they're still fussy and you can't figure out why, guess what? You can breastfeed them because it's so natural. Their body's going to use what it needs and then poop out what it doesn't. And you can't make a baby over breastfeed. They're only going to eat what they need, and they're going to stop when they're done. So formula, on the other hand, you can formula feed and it can keep going and going and going, and they can't make you stop sometimes. So you can definitely overfeed with formula, but not with breastfeeding. So put your baby to breast early and often, as many times as you can, especially in those first couple days. That's really going to train your body to have your milk come in sooner, and they'll lose less weight. They'll be less jaundiced. Their sugars will be stable, and all around, it's the best thing. So usually after I do this once, which I probably, like I said, we have this happen every single day at work. It's just a totally normal thing after labor for these babies to be super sleepy. So you want to try and do this, and then this should give you another couple hours, and they should at least wake up in the next hour or two, hopefully. And if not, do the whole thing again, and hopefully they will finally latch for you. If you do have a lactation consultant there, definitely see if you can get them there with you for the next feeding or for this feeding. But I have come across times where I have had some babies that they're just, sometimes they're not even sleepy. Sometimes they're just so uncoordinated, which is a thing too. You know, sometimes they just don't understand how to do that suck, swallow, breathe, like pattern, and they get a little confused. And then they go on the breast and they like kind of bite and they chew and they're not really sure what to do. So sometimes it's not always you. Sometimes the majority of the time it's the baby. So your positioning is a lot easier. Okay, so that's really it. Watch for those feeding cues at any time. Like I said, put your baby to the breast early and often. You really can't over breastfeed them in these first couple days. It's about frequency of feeding, not the amount. So don't focus on the amount. Even when you hand express, if you only get 0.2, totally fine. If you were to put your baby to the breast, it would pull out probably double or triple that, because the baby does the best at the breast first, then your hands, then a pump. So this is why I'm really talking about hand expression. So if somebody asks like, hey, Jen, why not a pump? Okay, well, a pump will do stimulation, but because that colostrum is so thick like honey, your hands are going to be able to do more work pulling that colostrum forward and really kind of compressing those singular breast ducts where you can find where it is, where the pump is only pulling from the front. And it's just pulling. And it's like, what if some of that colostrum was way back here still? Like even after 15 minutes of pumping, you still might not get it, or you might just get little drops. And then it's hard to collect inside the flange. So I would definitely recommend hand expressing it, especially in the first 24 hours. And then otherwise, you can do all these same things. But then after 24 hours, you can use a pump first and just pump for like 10, 15 minutes and then try and hand express after. Hand expressing after each time you can pump can actually double your milk supply and help it come in quicker. So I highly recommend that too if you need to start pumping for any reason. Okay, so I'm going to include a checklist with this, and it's a super simple checklist. It kind of just goes through the steps. So if you forget for some reason and you want to print that out and bring it with you, stick it in your hospital bag, or if you're having a home birth and you just want to have it at home just to remember the things to do, definitely print that out and bring that with you. So I think that is it. So thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to do this. Again, like I said, all parents go through this one with sleepy babies. It's totally common. Now you'll have the exact skill set and the step-by-step guide to know exactly what to do to get your baby to start feeding. And if they're not feeding, maintain their temperatures and everything through skin to skin. So if you have any questions, please feel free. You can email me. I'll have my email below on the page. You can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at The Lactation Expert, and feel free to ask me any questions. Okay, and I hope you guys all have a fabulous day. Okay, bye. Take care.